to Diversity Matters. This program is designed to highlight the diversity-related activities throughout New Hanover County Schools and the greater Wilmington community. I'm Valita Quattlebaum, Chief Communications Officer for New Hanover County Schools. In the same way some people need glasses to see, some students need special tools to help them be as successful as possible in school. Joining us on the program this month are Lisa Estep and Dawn Grebe, members of the Advisory Council for Exceptional Students, also known as ASUS. They're here to discuss just how ASUS helps to get the right tools into the hands of parents of exceptional children and their students. So, don't go away. Diversity Matters will get started right after this short break.
In 1977, an 8-year-old boy picked up the game of golf from his father. The odds of that same boy then making it to the US and European Pro Golf Tours? 1 in 7 million. The odds of the Big Easy winning the US Open twice? 1 in 1.2 billion. The odds of him having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 150. Ernie Els encourages you to learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
Welcome back to Diversity Matters. The State Board of Education passed a resolution in 1975 calling for the establishment of local advisory councils for children with special needs. Here in New Hanover County, that board is the Advisory Council for Exceptional Students, or ASUS. Joining me today from the ASUS membership are Lisa Estep and Dawn Grebe. Mrs. Estep is also a member of our Board of Education, and Mrs. Grebe is this year's ASUS chair. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you here and to talk about this topic because I know so many parents need to hear this, so thank you again. And Mrs. Estep, as a board member, you've been extremely passionate about helping our students with special needs and their families. So as a member of the board, what have you specifically been able to accomplish in that area?
I would divide it up into two different categories: awareness and action. I am a parent of a young adult with special needs and one with a dual diagnosis of learning disabilities and mental health disorders. So, and she was educated in the public schools in New Hanover County all the way through. So I think I have a unique perspective of what it's like to be in that world and to try to educate a student of special needs. I am the only board member with that knowledge and that understanding. So I've helped to kind of broaden the understanding on a board level of what it means to be a student with special needs, what that community needs, the programming information, kind of overall, I've brought that voice to the board that wasn't there before. I've also been, we passed a policy when I first came on the board to create a position of a board liaison to the advisory council. So, so I was the first one to serve in that position, and I came on at a very good time when there were some changes going on within the special education department in New Hanover County Schools. So it was a good time to come and kind of reform what the council was and kind of get it more to where we thought it should be. So so the action piece was, you know, working on ACEs, working on different programming elements, working on different initiatives, and kind of helping to bring those to fruition.
Excellent. It certainly has risen in the level of awareness, I think, in our school district. So can you tell us the main purpose of ACEs and give us some background about the group?
Sure. As you stated, that the State Board of Education back in 1975 passed a resolution calling for these advisory councils to be formed. Not every LEA is in compliance with that. We have had an advisory council at least since the early 80s. What the advisory council is supposed to do, and the name has changed for those who know it as it used to be.
What was it? Do you remember?
It was, and we were going through this before. You know, it was the advisory, not New Hanover County Schools Advisory Council for Exceptional Needs, or something along those lines. It was way too long, way too much of a mouthful. No one remembered what it was. So one of the things that the awareness committee, it was basically two of us, did when I first came on was we sort of just decided on our own to change the name, and everyone kind of just let us do it. So Carolina Matt was the one that came up with the name ASUS, the moniker ASUS. So it's much easier to say, much easier to describe, and it's actually been a really good thing, and we're trying to roll with that. Another thing that we did was we got one of the high schools, New Hanover High School, to design brochures for us. The students in a graphic art class came up with several different designs, and then the council picked the design that they like. And that's something we would like to continue to do, is to involve students from our middle schools and high schools to help design the logo, the new website, which is another thing that is new and running, and a very good source of information. My very first attempt at building a website, it was just a lot more challenging than I thought it would be. But the main purpose, to get back to your question, the main purpose or the main benefit is we are kind of the conduit for parents, families, students, community members to New Hanover County Schools. We provide that voice. We provide that feedback. So we are the avenue of communication. We are also required to have parents on our council. We have to have at least 1/3. So it's a chance for parents to be involved. And any parent can show up to any meeting.
Any parent.
Any parent. Whether you have a special needs child or not, if you're interested in knowing more about it,
So
if you want to be an advocate,
or
exactly,
somebody you want to help,
you may show up.
That's
We love input. We love family involvement. So in that way, we are designed to promote awareness. We're designed to give feedback. We're that bridge. So we do make a report. I think it's once a year to the board.
That's correct.
Working on maybe doing that 2 different times, because it seems like once a year is not quite enough.
Right.
So again, that's the main purpose, and to report back to the board how our program's working. We go and we find out information about the various programs in the schools, the various methodologies that are available, the training that the teachers are getting, how are the students responding. We are compiling all that data along with the special ed department. And so again, we help provide that and feed that back to the board and hopefully to the community as a whole.
I can imagine that there's so many parents who are struggling with these issues and don't know that you're there. So if nothing else, I hope today will help raise that awareness.
Yes.
So Dawn, thank you again for being here. And let's talk about that term, exceptional child or exceptional children. We hear that thrown around, and really, what does it mean? And what are some things people can look for? Because I know it can mean a whole range of things.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where some of the education needs to come in.
Absolutely. It does take on its own form there. You have children that have all kinds of qualities, and some are very visible, some may be invisible. Okay, so you can have kids who have physical ailments or physical impairments that require them to have special equipment or so forth to be able to get around the school or to be involved. Other children have specific learning differences that they exist in their everyday activities, and so they may have difficulty sitting still, they may have difficulty focusing, they may have difficulty being able to write, being able to read, being able to work with other kids in the classroom as part of a group or effort. And so sometimes those qualities, those exceptional qualities that kids have, may be an issue with their successful learning ability. And that's where, you know, parents need to be aware and not be afraid to say something.
Right.
And to draw that attention to the teachers and to ask questions.
So they could get their child help.
So that they can get help.
Right.
There are avenues then that parents can have their child evaluated, things that they can look at so that they can fine tune it and figure out, you know, what supports may need to be there. And to determine the severity of it, because not everybody who has learning differences may be eligible for services.
Right.
But there still needs to be some interventions there to help.
Okay, I know that will be helpful to people. We have to take a short break right here, but don't go away. When we come back, we'll be discussing the stigma of labeling and stereotyping and just what can be done to break that trend.
on, David. Come on, David. Let's go, David. Come on.
Come on, David, you got the love.
Get as involved in your kids' education as in everything they do, and imagine the success they might find. Stay in touch with the teacher. Visit the school. For more tips, call 1-800-281-1313.
Welcome back to Diversity Matters. Before the break, we were talking about how ASUS can benefit parents with special needs here in New Hanover County. And so, Ms. Eastup, can you tell us more about what ASUS does to benefit our parents?
Well, I think we could be a resource in many ways. One is membership. Parents can join ASUS. We have a requirement that 1/3 of the council has to be made up of parents of students with special needs. So again, join us. We have an application process, so they could provide the voice. They can just come to the meetings even if they don't want to join. Mm-hmm. We also provide resources. We now have a Facebook, a Twitter account, and a web page that are all up and running that have different has information on there that on resources, upcoming events. Different parts of the what's available in the community,
and how to join,
mm-hmm. what ACE is all about. We have prior minutes on there. I'm trying to think. We've got a lot of information. We're really proud of the website because we got that up and running this year for the first time. A lot of links to good information. We also provide, as I said before, we provide the voice. The feedback that we get, we then in turn give to the school system and to the special ed department, and they do make changes based on what they hear from the forums, and so that's a really good thing. We're now starting to become that extra little piece that really wasn't as active before, but now it's becoming that way.
Advocacy group.
Correct.
That's excellent. And Dawn, I wanted to ask you about, we hear about parents who have children with special needs, but they're in denial about it. I have someone in my family who has a child that she's raising as her grandson, and she does not want to get him help because she keeps saying, oh, nothing's wrong with him. She doesn't, she's afraid of labeling and the stigmatism. So what can we do to help parents like my aunt, or I'm sure some parents watching, who are in that boat, who are afraid of getting their child help?
Absolutely, that's an important issue. And as a parent of a child that has learning disabilities, it was very important to me when I recognized that there were things happening that my child was not happy about being in school, was very upset, was not working well, that I finally had to say, okay, we're going to figure this out. We're going to get it looked at, we're going to talk to the right people and get it evaluated, so that much like if she had a cold, I'm going to get whatever the medicine is, whatever the steps are that I need to do to help her with whatever this is. And in the case of the learning disabilities, it was a matter of identifying what her strengths are, what her weaknesses are, how she learns, and then getting those things identified. It was much easier to have her understand that about herself, so that she is very much on board with being, part of a team, that we have to work at this together. It's not something that's just going to go away. It's going to always be a part of her. So now, through that process, she's now as much an advocate for herself in the classroom setting, because she accepts the fact that these are just her qualities. And there's nothing right or wrong, it's just who she is. And when everybody's comfortable with that, it makes it easier when you're going into meetings to discuss changes that need to take place and why. Especially if it's an invisible difficulty,
right.
Okay? Mm-hmm. It's easier then to be able to put that into words and actions and get everybody moving in the same direction. So buying in on that and having family support buy in on that too makes you more comfortable, it builds your self-esteem, it builds your self-confidence, and the sooner the better. If you wait, then it's going to take an emotional and mental toll on somebody, and then undoing that is going to be much, much more difficult. So from my own perspective, it's been important to get that out there right away and help our child accept that.
And help themselves.
Help themselves,
right.
Yes ma'am.
And know that it's not something to hide.
Right.
It's just there's nothing wrong, there's something different. And so we have to figure out a different way to approach education for that particular child, and that's what I guess the takeaway would be, is that to treat this as just another thing. If your child needs glasses, you go to the doctor, get them glasses.
Right. If they were diabetic, you wouldn't
Exactly. There's
withhold
no
the
difference.
insulin, right.
There's no difference. Just because you can't see it on the outside doesn't mean it's not there. And that you want your child to be the most to be as successful as they can be. Keep the doors open for them in the future.
And that leads to my next question. I know some parents who have a child that may act out in public, or they would be embarrassed, and so they might isolate themselves and keep the child at home. What would you say to a parent like that?
Come to a meeting, help us educate the public, make them aware of the issues of somebody maybe with a behavioral disorder. It may be that the child doesn't have a behavioral disorder, but they are acting out because of frustration, because they are, I mean, you think about it, if you have a learning challenge, you're sitting in a classroom for 6.5 hours a day and you can't comprehend what's going on around you. That's very frustrating and very angering. And so that can manifest itself in several ways. But there are children who have distinct behavioral challenges. And again, getting the word out there and getting the community as a whole exposed to what that looks like, what that means, and what the correct response may be. It is startling when you have someone who's breaking down beside you.
Right, if you're in a restaurant.
Right, right. But we also need to give the parents the support to understand what to do when that happens, because some parents don't know how to effectively deal with that. So it's kind of a two-way street. We help educate the public. We also help the parent with resources, to connect them with resources in the community to help them.
Oh, that is so needed. I can imagine the sense of frustration and loss that they must feel. So definitely, I hope everyone watching connects with ASUS. Again, we have to take another short break, but when we get back, we will find out ways parents can advocate for themselves and their child with special needs. Diversity Matters continues right after these messages.
Wilmington's African American community had its own literary societies, lyceums, and libraries. As early as 1870, there were organized groups such as the Colored Literary Society, which provided night school for men. Frederick Douglass, world-famous abolitionist, author, and civil rights leader, spoke at City Hall in 1872. It was not until 1926 that the city began supporting a free public library for African Americans. The New Hanover County Public Library, celebrating a century of stories.
Welcome back. We've been talking about how ASUS supports parents of students with special needs. And our guests are ASUS members, Board of Education member Lisa Estep, and ASUS Chair Don Green. So Lisa, I know that we're doing some special initiatives here in New Hanover County. Can you share some of those with us?
Sure. The first one is getting ready to hopefully start up at the beginning of the year, and that will be at Pine Valley Elementary. A service dog agency called Paws for People will have the first trained teacher in the school system trained to handle a service dog, and that teacher will have his own service dog and be able to bring it into the classroom. And then long term, the goal is to get interns in with their dogs to help with different needs within the schools, not just with the special needs community, but the school as a whole. The dogs can be read to. If a child is having a behavioral meltdown, the dogs are trained to handle that sort of thing. I think it's a really neat, innovative thing that I'm excited to be a part of, and I'm excited that Pine Valley has stepped forward, and that school does some really cool stuff, and so this is yet another thing. I'm also part of the working group that is trying to bring an innovative CTE high school to New Hanover County, and I'm happy to say that we are well on our way down that path. And I'm excited, from a special needs perspective, because I think the type of learning that might be involved could benefit some of our special needs community within the school system. We are going to have more of an online learning blended with teacher taught classrooms. and for some special needs students, that would be a benefit. So we need to look at that that aspect of it. We also are going to be starting a student advocacy group, probably at the high school level first, and then would like to bring it down to the middle and eventually the elementary school students, to help students, number one, network with each other and realize that, hey, it's okay to meet and talk, and I've got somebody here sitting next to me who's dealing with a similar issue. So that helps with their self-esteem, but also we really want to help them advocate for themselves, because eventually these students are going to be adults, are going to be out there on their own. They need to know to express, what do I need, how do I need to get there, and who do I need to talk to about it, and
now, will that be a
effective
part
strategies.
of ASUS or a separate
It
group?
will. It'll be kind of a subset, and that's something that Julie Askew and I have been talking about, and Dawn, and we're all going to be meeting hopefully at the start of the year to kind of come up with some steps to form those groups, starting at the high school and then bringing down. So those are just 3, but we have others. The parent forums, I keep forgetting to mention those. Those are huge. I don't know if you want to talk about those.
The parent forums, absolutely. This is our 2nd year doing that. We do
What
2.
are the parent forums and what are they about?
What are they about? They give the parents a chance to come in and talk with us about what is happening within their schools, what they understand as far as how the schools deal with transition from preschool to elementary, elementary to middle, middle to high school, and then post-secondary. To talk with us about the communication that exists within the school that they're at. Things that we can improve, things that are working, things that they can share, and if they could dream it, what it would be. Awareness and advocacy, how, again, we are helping parents and students to be aware of what's going on, what they're struggling with, and what they can do about that, to understand what's in place at the schools. I'm drawing a blank on a couple of the others. We've talked about IEPs and asked for their feedback from that, which means the parents who are already receiving services for their kids, how is that process going? How is it working, going to the IEP meetings and making sure that the progress is being made that is set there for each student. We also ask for feedback for the parents who have students who are just struggling in the general education classes that may not be identified yet, to find out what's happening at their school to help the parents and the students make that through the process of being evaluated. And
so our
identifying.
special ed staff is there, Julie Askew and all?
Yes, they are
So-
all
That is
there.
correct.
They're all part of these forums, which is huge.
That is
and not
huge.
always easy, because you know
Right.
typically the people you get coming to the forums are the ones that have had issues. But I give them a lot of credit for coming and being a part of it and helping these forums to come to fruition.
Well, and it's an avenue of, again, communication. It's a partnership between the families, the communities, and the schools to help
Yes.
educate the kids. And the only way you're going to get to that point is to hear back what's going on, how it's working or how it's not working.
Right.
So we do keep the 3 themes of keep it, change it, and dream it
Right.
to try to pull together as much feedback as we can. And some of the things that have happened since then, we have been trying to work with the Family Support Network to have opportunities for training to allow parents to come in and learn about what IEPs are, or what 504 plans are, or what services exist.
So sometimes it may be a training workshop, say about laws or whatever
Right.
the topic is that parents want to know about. right?
Exactly, where they can come in and have that chance to actually learn something more about what might be available to them or help them with their child.
You know, there are all these different acronyms that parents, when you're walking, and a lot of times too, what we found was, and I know this from being a parent, sometimes the only exposure you get to teachers, administration is in an IEP setting, and sometimes that's just very adversarial. A lot of times it is. And so this is a way of chatting when outside of that, and hopefully maybe getting a greater level of communication started, and a greater level of understanding, so the parents don't walk into the IEP and all these acronyms are thrown at them. We can help them learn about those things. What is MTSS? What is I'm trying to blank on another, but that's a big one. Multi-tiered system of support used to be
The RTI.
RTI model. So
Right,
there are
so
lots
that's
of things
not
that are thrown around,
so
right? And then
overwhelming
there's
and confusing.
right. There's so many
Exactly.
different methodologies that are used. There's language. There's corrective reading. There's Singapore math. There are a lot of different methodologies that also parents might not be familiar with, and we can help provide them data on that, what those things are.
Well, let me squeeze in one last question to you, Lisa, because you're coming to the, I guess, the end of your first term on the board.
Yes.
What are some things you think we do well in special ed, and what do you think we can improve upon?
I think that we, just in my time on the board, I think we've done such a better job listening to parents. The parent, like I said, I can't undersell the parent forums, how important they have been, because I think they have opened up lines of communication that weren't there before. I see Julie Askew doing an amazing job with kind of reallocating resources that are available in the county, kind of looking at from a bird's eye view, what are we doing, where are we doing it, and where do we need to change. I think she's been very active in that. I think that we do a good job interacting with the various agencies, with Family Support Network, as Dawn mentioned, to get them in the schools. And we contract with outside agencies to get help into the schools, like for hard to fill areas like occupational therapists, like psychologists. We contract with outside agencies to make sure we have the help that is needed. So I think we're doing a really good job of stepping back and saying, what are we doing and why are we doing it? We have students moving in from other counties to come to our program. So I think we're building what we need. We just haven't finished building it yet. And we want to be a part of it, right? Exactly.
Well, both of your leadership is a part of the reason why I think we're one of the top in the state in the area of special ed, even though I know we have a long way to go. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you. Thanks for giving us this chance to talk about it.
Absolutely, and we'll have to have you back again. So, if you would like more information on ASUS and the services they provide, we encourage you to visit their website at www.nhcs.net and then click under our Parents tab. Thank you for joining us for this edition of Diversity Matters. If you ever have any questions about topics discussed on the show or have any idea for a future edition of the program, feel free to call the New Hanover County Public Relations Department at 254-4245. Until next time, I'm Valita Quattlebaum, and thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again next month right here on Diversity Matters.